Welcome to the business meeting of the City of Pratt. The order of business for tonight's meeting will be as follows. We'll conduct a work session, a public hearing, as well as our regular council agenda. We thank everyone tonight for coming and showing your interest in support of the City of Pratt. Our last work session focused on infrastructure. Tonight's work session will focus on education. Please adhere to the following rules of engagement. First, we'll conduct a work session. This session is strictly for information purposes. The Board of Education will be given 30 minutes to make a presentation, and the Ivy Classical Charter School will be given 30 minutes to make a presentation. Please note that there will be no action or vote taken this evening. I repeat, there will be no action or vote taken this evening. Our goal is to have a productive. Our goal is to have a productive and orderly meeting. With that in mind, I ask that everyone hold their comments until the appropriate time allotted at the end of the meeting. I understand there are strong opinions regarding this matter. However, outbursts will not be tolerated. If there is an outburst, I will attempt to bring order. If it continues, we'll have procedures to bring this meeting to order. We want to give everyone an opportunity to speak and voice your opinion, if you'd like, but it will be done in an orderly and respectful manner. After we conclude our work session, public hearing, and a regular agenda, the floor will be open to any citizens wishing to speak. I repeat, after we conclude our work session, public hearing, and regular agenda, the floor will be open to any citizen wishing to speak. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Councilor Strickland? Here. Councilor Jackson? Here. Councilor Chambers? Here. Councilor Starnes?
Here.
Councilor Bornco?
Here.
Councilor Stritchick? Here. Councilor Moon? Here.
Let's move into the work session. Our Finance Director, Daniel Oakley, discussed that the 1 cent sales tax, by his estimation, will sunset on July 31st. We either can let this 1 cent sales tax retire or continue and designate to various projects or needs for the city. We'll discuss parks and recreation and public facilities in the coming weeks. If the council wants to discuss any additional needs, please let me know. The 1 cent sales tax brings in approximately $6.8 million a year. We can designate this 1, 2, 3, or 4 departments. The 2 buckets brings in $3.4 million each, or 3 buckets, $2.3 million each, or 4 buckets, $1.7 million each. Or we can bring the reserve account to $10 million prior to any projects. Tonight, Mr. Tidmore, our superintendent from Ottawa Board of Education, will have 30 minutes to discuss the needs for Ottawa County. Mr. Tidmore, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Nice to be here and have the invitation. My name is Tim Tidmore. I have been in the city since January 1st. I was officially hired in October, and I have thoroughly enjoyed the time that we've had here so far. It's been an eventful time. We've had a lot going on, needless to say. I'm sure you all are aware of that. I appreciate the opportunity to address the needs of our system, infrastructure needs, and we'll look at several other areas. You should have a folder in front of you, a manila folder that has our information in it, and I'm well aware if we need to make some copies for anybody, just call my office tomorrow and we can make additional copies if anybody else would like a copy of it. One thing that really struck me when I was interviewing for this position was the number of families that we have. Their current students are first, second, third, and fourth generation Ottawa County education graduates. Their families have graduated here for a number of years. And that was always that family atmosphere. So with that in mind, I want us to look at, if you'll look in your folder, you've got a couple of things. We're going to look at the system snapshot, which let me remind you, this is the 2021 edition, and we'll kind of walk through that. There may be some questions from that. We'll also look at some infrastructure, curriculum and instruction, some needs that we have and some things that we got going on there. Mobile classrooms we'll look at, and then some of our assessment and achievement data that is quite impressive as you look through some of this information. First of all, if you'll look on the Autauga County, the system snapshot, you'll see that we have a 1 month operating budget of $5.6 million. At this particular time, we had 2.31 months in reserve. At the end of this fiscal year, we estimate we'll have close to right at 3. Is that correct? And I'm looking over at my financial officer. If you'll also look at the per pupil expenditures, Autauga County is $8,618 per pupil. The Alabama average is $10,092 per pupil. Lowest system is $5,200, and you can see the other breakdowns. If you look at the per pupil revenue source, and this is really a telling piece of information, the state average is $6,568. Local is, and this is for us, our local revenue per pupil is $1,913. And so that is what we get per pupil from local revenue. You'll look, we are 109 in the state in local revenue, 190 in state rank as far as the highest, the money from the state, and from the federal we are 114. If you'll flip over to the next page, as far as the school system revenue, one thing that's really important to note, only 5% of our state money, our state education foundation money, can only be used for, only 5% can be used for something other than personnel. Okay? And if you'll see our salaries, for local salaries of $40.5 million, and the benefits $16.5 million, and the non-personnel operations, that's the things like the other current units and things like that, it's about $2.8 million. And so what I'm going to do from this point on, and we'll be referring back to this some, but with a new revenue source, we would be able to continue a lot of the same, or continue the activities that we have started. There's a number of things that we've started since I got here in January. Some of the things that were already in place, but we fine-tuned. So if you'll flip over, the next page that I want you to look at is the infrastructure. And these are the things, these are the buildings, the hardscapes that we're using every day to educate our students. First of all, and these are things that I noticed as I was interviewing for the superintendent position, do a phenomenal job when we've got buildings that are built, and we've got two, one built in 1936, one built in 1937. Many of you probably graduated from Autauga County High School, just across the road here when it was the high school. Prattville, which is now Prattville Kindergarten School. Prattville Primary School was built in 1927. It would be hard to tell that these buildings were that old. They've been well maintained, but as we get into the 21st century, it gets harder and harder to maintain the wiring integrity of the buildings because of as a result of the digital devices that the students are being used now. As a matter of fact, this school year alone, we have, and Ms. Clemens, you may have to correct, we have added about 4,000 Chromebooks, I believe it is, to our digital inventory, which puts a big, it really straps our network. And that was something else as far as the infrastructure that additional or a new revenue source would help us with to upgrade our network system. Frequently, we've got a network that does our network administrator does a phenomenal job, but when we've added this huge number of Chromebooks and digital devices that not only tax us while we're here in our buildings, but they're running off of our network when they're at home because they go through our filtering devices and everything, it really starts to show on our network by slowing it down. And of course, as well as I do, this day and age, digital access to students is a prerequisite for education, daily education. Another thing that I noticed, and we do a phenomenal job with, but we could do better, our athletic facilities. Stanley Gibson Stadium is a wonderful stadium, but there's some upgrades that need to be done there. The Prattville High School is a phenomenal building, but it was built in the 70s. And we're expecting to educate kids in the 2000s from 2021, 2022 and on in a building that was designed in 1970, 77, where the focus was not necessarily career tech and college ready, but it was pretty much the choice the kids had was you were going to go to college or you were going to go home and work on the farm that your family owned. So that's an important thing that we can upgrade with additional, or begin plans to upgrade with additional money. We also have about 36 buses that will come off of fleet renewal funds. We get a portion of money each year to replace buses that are aging out past the 10 years. And so coming up in 2022, we've got 36 buses that will be coming off of that. We don't get near enough money from the state to replace all of them, and we kind of, you have to make do with what you've got. Also, another thing I noticed as we were interviewing and driving around, I'm a big proponent of our pre-K program. The Office of School Readiness pre-K program does a phenomenal job preparing kids that are leveling the playing field for kids that might not be able to attend a pre-K program at a church or a daycare or something. We currently have 4 units at Prattville Primary. We have 4 units at Pine Level and 2 units at Prattville Primary School. We really need an additional 2 units, and I'm happy to say we have applied for 2 additional units to place in areas of the county that will most benefit from that. One of them will be within if we're approved, will be within the police jurisdiction of Prattville, and the other will be in another area where the need is greater, or is just as great. I will say this, with our OSR grants, and they do a great job providing money for them, but they're designed for the systems to start absorbing more and more cost as the years go on with the grants. And currently, out of our budget, we are paying about 1.85 FTEs of our pre-K staff. So, and each pre-K center has a teacher and an aide with them. Okay, if you'll flip through just real quickly, Ottawa County Schools curriculum instruction, I'm really excited about what we have going on. I'm happy to say too that right now, and it's been a while since we've done this or been able to say this, we now have, or we're implementing, and will have implemented by the beginning of this next school year, a system-wide K-12 assessment that will follow a child from kindergarten through 12th grade, that you can see their growth or lack of growth. That's a game changer for us, because I'm sure you're aware of the Literacy Act that requires us to start making sure our third graders are on third grade level by the time they leave third grade. This is going to allow the teacher, if they change schools, go to one of the other elementary schools, it will allow their record to go with them. And this is not the same record as a cumulative folder. This is their benchmark assessment that shows their growth over time, over a period. So, our core program is standards-based. It's the approved curriculum from the state. We also heavily assess our pre-K kids through using the GOLD assessment. The ACAP summative would be grades 2 through 12. And grades 3 through 6, we use a district performance series to do. All of these things we take out of our state money, and additional local money would allow us to put that money back in use in another way. So that's the reason I'm mentioning that. And obviously we have a virtual option that we'll be announcing a few changes with that coming up in the next little bit. Also, something I'm very proud of, and I noticed as I was going through, is our Career and Technical Center. I am happy to say that we are finalizing plans on, in addition to our Career and Tech Center, that will incorporate a lot of the areas that the business community say that we need. that's coming up in the next year or two. This new center will add be 4 different life labs. One will be a welding lab, a state-of-the-art welding lab. If you have been following salaries, as you know, on different in Wall Street Journal and different the Career Tech website, the state, you'll know that welding is a very, very lucrative career. Not only will we have your traditional welders, your stick welders, your MIG and TIG welders, we'll also have a plasma welder, so that these kids can gain valuable experience on the equipment that they will be using in industry. It's also one of our highest credentialing program pathways at the Tech Center. We'll also be adding adding to our Family and Consumer Science program by vamping up our hospitality and tourism. We were in a phenomenal situation here with the Robert Trent Jones Golf Course just down the road, and several other local businesses that we can partner with in hospitality and tourism and beef up the culinary arts. So we're working on that too. So that's all part of our Career Tech Center that will be in operation. We'll break ground probably in the next month or so. Another thing that is really important that I want to point out is the Prattville Intermediate School operates under a unique setting. It's called the house setting, where the school is divided into different houses by hall or homerooms, and this adds a family atmosphere to the school setting where they compete with each other, and you know as well as I do, when you have friendly competition, then everybody improves. And so I would invite you to come by Dr. Addison would love for you to come by the intermediate school and let him walk you through and show you the different houses that they have set up and how they decide how the house members decide who's going to be their new house mate. Okay, just going right through, this is probably the most exciting thing we have, the mobile classrooms. We've already started, and I know time is going. I could talk forever about what we've got going on. But our mobile classroom STEM is a very, very, very subject that's dear to my heart and dear to what I think we need to be focusing on. We have found, thanks to Ms. Stockman, principal at the junior high school, we've got 2 school buses that are being renovated to mobile STEM units, mobile STEM centers. One will be a STEAM, which will include an art concept for K through 3. The STEM will be really for 4th through 8th grade, but there will be power hookup at the schools where the students will be able to incorporate hands-on and minds-on learning into what they've learned in the classroom. There'll be different modules based on whatever the topic would be, that's going in the science classroom. It will be designed to be cross-curricular, involving social studies, math, science, to where all subjects would be integrated into a service project or a project-based learning. That's very important, and that will be something very visible in the very near future. Very near future. The next couple of pages, we've got scholarship snapshot. Let's face it, our job is to prepare students for post-secondary college or post-secondary workforce. You'll notice, and these are some phenomenal numbers, and I do apologize, we've had some principal changes at a couple of the schools, and of course last year with COVID we didn't have complete numbers, but if you'll notice in 2020, the Toggleville School, 250 student school, K-12 had $331,000 in scholarships that were awarded to the senior class. That's phenomenal for a senior class that probably was 15 to 18. And if you'll look to Billingsley School, there's $228,600. Marbury High School in 2020 was $3.2 million. Of that, there was a large number of athletic scholarships presented at that time. Same way with Prattville High School in 2019, they had a little over $4 million, which is phenomenal for a 7A school, very phenomenal. But you got to remember, we cannot operate a 7A school in a 5A building. And it takes money for us to do that and to continue these things where we can compete academically, athletically, extracurricular, fine arts, and all. You'll look through, we've had this year, currently we have 1 National Merit finalist and 1 semifinalist. So our curriculum apparently is working. and it's working very well. You know, when you educate every student that we get, you know, you've got to meet their needs, whether they are the lowest of the low or the highest of the high, and I think we do a phenomenal job. You look at our AP Snapshot, I think there were a couple of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, the high schools went through A+ training. We are beginning to go through some securing the dates for our ACT training. We started working on those dates just recently. Our report card, and I won't go through everything on here. I just need to point out this is reported data. In other words, by reported, that means it's weighted. It takes out the things that we can't necessarily control. And so if you'll look at, you know, we've got it looks at our systems letter grade. Of course, Otago County Schools has a letter grade of B. You know, we want to be an A system. We think we're an A system. We were an A system, you know, several years ago, and that's where we want to go back, and I think we're on the trajectory to get to that point. When I started in January, I started looking at how we as a system can promote ourselves, and we started tagging and started using the term Advance Otago County. And by Advance Otago County, we're not only advancing the school system, extracurricular, athletics, fine arts, academics, but we're also advancing Otago County's economy, because good schools bring more jobs. I read, and these may not be the exact numbers, there's roughly about 4,000 people that come into work in Otago County daily, but about 8,000 leave Otago County to go to work daily. And ideally, you want that number to be, well, you want more to come into Otago County than go out. And by saying that, I mean our educational system has got to advance and got to work with the industry, the government leaders, so that we can offer and change to what our potential citizens need. And that's our job. But looking at our report card data, one thing that we have addressed, chronic absenteeism. A couple years ago, 3 years ago, the government added chronic absenteeism as a category in the report card. Chronic absenteeism is not just for unexcused absences, it's for all absences. Anyone who's had an absent or 18 or more absences, whether excused or unexcused. If a child is in the hospital, you know, for 2 weeks, and then they have to recuperate, it's not their fault, but they get counted and pegged as being chronically absent. So I presented that information to show you that, yes, we do a really good job. The teachers do a really good job with what we have, and we can do so much more with an additional revenue stream. Just going right along, you can look at our student enrollment, the trends there. Yes, our student population has decreased. Population of the county as a whole has decreased too, so you've got to look at some different things. It's not just, you know, students exiting the county because of this or because of that. They are exiting because families are mobile today. They're not necessarily at home just like we are when we were growing up. We didn't stay in the same place. Just flipping on through, we can show another need that our students have that is costing some local, that we could use additional revenue for, is our social and emotional health of our students. The past year has been a trying time for our students being at home. The majority of the time at home by themselves, away from friends, and so we're seeing our DHR referrals up, our nurse referrals are up, our mental health counselor referrals are up. Those are things that we've got to address. If we cannot address the needs of our students that way, we can't expect them to learn. And that takes money. Also, I will say too, our students needing full-time nursing care, whether it's on the bus or at home, has increased every year for the past 3 or 4 years. And nursing care is very expensive. That is what I have. If there's any questions, I will take them, but I do want to say, I couldn't stand up here with my teachers behind me and staff over to my left without saying, you know, we have a great county. We have a great county system. our teachers do a phenomenal job every day with what they have. We've had teachers doing double duty this year because they wanted to make sure their virtual students had the same opportunity that their in-class students. And I want to say, to me, this is about revenue. It's not about a charter school or a private school or anything like that. It's not about that. That's, you know, it's never, for me, it's never been about it. It's about equity, and, you know, when splitting revenue and a disproportionate amount goes to a smaller student population group and leaves out a larger student population group. To me, that really is just saying to the teachers that are back here and that see our students every day that you're not valued, and that's not the case. But again, and I want to it's not about a charter school. Charter school, I mean, it's great. It's a good thing. It's about equity with what we have and what's coming up. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there any questions from the council? Yes, sir.
What exactly are you asking for this elected body?
What am I asking for from the elected?
Precisely.
To be equitably treated financially as we can be with other public school entities in the county. We need an additional, in order to be competitive with the counties around us. You know, we've got to look at certain salaries. We've got to look at athletic supplements. We've got to look at facilities. So we've got to be able to begin the process of keeping up with our neighboring counties, and an additional revenue stream would allow us to do that.
Can you present a more precise business type plan that will map out exactly what dollar amounts you're asking for and how precisely those dollars will be spent?
I can, just as quickly as I can get home and get with my team and we can get it printed out.
I certainly would appreciate that. And then also, is there any way, how easy or difficult is it to find out what the teacher-student ratio is in all classrooms in your system?
I can let you know that as soon as I get to the office in the morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there any questions from the council? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So you made several, mentions of things that you guys need to improve on as far as infrastructure and curriculum. What would you say is probably number one on the to-do list that you'd like to get checked off?
That would be hard to say. I think the first thing, the most visible things that can be quickly done would be, upgrades at our athletic facilities. That would be something that's very visible. Certainly, plans, whether you start now or a year down the road or whatever, have a vision of what a new high school would look like and a new elementary school. You know, we're busting at the seams at Prattville or Daniel Pratt School or Daniel Pratt Elementary. We desperately need an additional elementary school. So things that we can visibly show the public, you know, this is what we're doing to be good stewards of your money. Having almost 3 months of supply or 3 months of operating expense, you know, that's well over what the state tells us to have, that we have to have. And so that shows that, you know, we do a good job. Let me say this too, and I've heard it, and I may be jumping ahead, maybe somebody's, you know, what is somebody's question. I've been asked several times, and I've had a lot of people have asked questions, and why should Prattville city limits pay for, a Toggleville or Marbury or, you know, any of the other? Well, you know, there's very few places you can go in Otago County to go to Walmart. It's in Prattville city limits. So majority of, the shopping is done outside of, not the majority, a lot of the outside of the city limit shopping is done by individuals that live outside of Prattville. Unfortunately, some percentage of them live in another county within, the city limits of Prattville. So I think if one section benefits, then the entire county benefits.
All right, this evening, go ahead, John.
Mr. Tidmore, thanks for coming tonight. One thing that I have a question about is enrollment tax.
Yes.
Can you give us an opinion on where that sits, in regards to your needs, the county school system, versus where you think we need to go?
Watauga County School, Watauga County is one of the few counties that called a 10 mil property tax. That means we operate our educational system on 10 mills. If you see the snapshot, I believe 1 mil, and this was 2 years ago, 1 mil in Watauga County was about $667,000. Obviously, the millage rate goes, of course, we go to education, and that would allow, allow us to approach the bond market in a more favorable way. I mean, if you have the finance. Most systems that have 7A schools in them, they're looking at least 15 to 25 meals. Some are approaching 30. Again, it takes money to benefit the entire system, and that sounds like a large amount. That's just what happens. If we want the facilities that are going to advance Watauga County, the students and the citizens of Watauga County, then that's what it's going to take.
If I just follow up on that, are there any discussions or any expectations to have discussions in regards to that with the county?
There have not been any formal discussions right now, as of right now, not any formal discussions.
Is there any other questions? Mr. Tidmore, thank you. I want to welcome you to the Prattville. I hadn't had an opportunity to welcome you, but welcome. And I would, if you would, recognize your board members.
Yes. We have Mr. Jeffrey Keith as the president of the board. And I'll just go through it. I've got Amber Anderson is our CSFO. We have Julie Harrington is our HR director. Dr. Rachel Searles is our federal programs and assessment and accountability coordinator. I have Laura Atchison, who is the best person in the office to keep everybody straight. She's my executive assistant and does a phenomenal job. Next to, I've got Miss Addison is next to her. She is student support. And Miss Clemens is operations, director of operations. I have Kathy Lofton, who is curriculum and elementary. Miss Addison is also director of secondary schools. I have Mark Heineman, a board member, his wife, and I have Miss Ballou, our board member, and I have Mr. Manderson, another board member. Dr. Sharon Streeter is our special ed director. Mrs. Goodwin, another of our board, was unable to be here tonight. She has some health issues.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tidmore. Bradley Dean with Ivy Classical Academy. You'll have 30 minutes to discuss the needs for the charter school. And Bradley, you have the floor.
Can you hear me okay? Let me see if I can read that. I've got one small request. We're doing the PowerPoint presentation and the lights coming in. Is there a chance we can shut the lights down or dim the lights?
Is there someone that can dim the lights?
Very intimate. Well, I appreciate President Starnes, council members. Thank you for inviting Ivy Classical to come out and talk to you today. Madam Clerk, I'm going to ask you, do I just wave at you when we're ready for the next slide, or? Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, just left and right. Hey, that's pretty good. Let's see if I can mess this up. Anyway, I just want to say thank you for providing a forum for civil discourse. I've actually been very happy with the kind of the vibe in here tonight, so that's very good. There's been a lot of things said online, a lot of misinformation. What we're trying to do here is we're going to take the first part of this segment to clear up a lot of misinformation. I did not print out anything for your advantage, and I don't think you can swivel your necks that hard, so I'll try and describe what's behind you. But I've got just a few fast facts, and the first one is that Ivy Classical Academy is a public school. That cannot be disputed. That's Alabama law. Charter schools all have to be 501c3 entities, and we are a public school. We're not a private school, we're not a magnet school, we're not a charter school. We are a public school. We are over 800 students pre-enrolled. That's about 500 families. The outpouring support that we've had from the community has really just been overwhelming. Every time that we turn around, the enrollments just keep going up and keep going up. We will share some of the comments at a later date. We're going to have another public session where people can ask Ivy Classical specific questions, but very encouraging to say the least. That's a mind-blowing number when the state of Alabama will tell you that for a charter school to be financially viable, it's 250 students. So that's a good start. We are tuition free. Ivy Classical Academy does not charge $1 to attend. So we are a public school, tuition free. Our charter was granted in September of 2020, and we are approved for priority enrollment in Autauga County. So we are a public school. I'm going to say that as many times as I can, but we are a public school with Autauga County as our priority enrollment zone. We are open for all students. We do not discriminate. We don't discriminate against race, ethnicity, gender, or religion. We are going to provide education for students with special needs, for ELL students, as well as all gifted students. We are a public school. No money, pro bono. All board members are pro bono. We don't receive a salary. We don't receive any benefits. There's no money switching hands here. There are rules and regulations, and I want to kind of address this now in case it's brought up later, that as a founding board, that is what is required of us to bring forth a charter application, get approved, and prior to the first day of school, we become a governing board. Prior to becoming a governing board, we all pass background checks. We go through a complete code of ethics class, and so I know there's some things going around out there, but let me tell you that everything will be addressed, and that's all we'll say about that. No seats have been awarded. I know that everybody thinks every last seat has been given away. Not one single seat has been awarded at Ivy Classical Academy. That will be done in an open enrollment where people, if we have more capacity, so if we have 642 seats and 643 apply, 643 names are entered into a public lottery that is done by a third-party administrator. We don't select behind closed doors. It's all done above board. But let me stress that no seats have been awarded. Lottery system, I kind of got ahead of myself, but if there's any questions regarding that, we can address those later. School choice. So this is where we get into the meat and potatoes. School choice was made possible in 2015 by the Alabama legislator. What this means for Autauga County is parents can now make a choice between enrolling their students in Ivy Classical or keeping them in their assigned Autauga County public school. It's a choice, school choice. Does school choice help students? Overwhelming evidence demonstrates that school choice programs improve academic outcomes for those who participate, and academics are only one measure of this achievement. School choice has a tremendous positive impact on graduation rates, enrollment in college, civic and community engagement, reduction in crime, and improved parent and student satisfaction. We can't speak to all charter schools, many differences, but we can state that the curriculum that we are using, which is deployed in 11 states, over 30 charter schools, has resulted in a 20% average net increase in math and reading proficiencies, These numbers you see here are from a sister school in Atlanta. They recently reported the data from their first 2 graduating classes, so 2019 and 2020. 100% college acceptance, the #1 SAT score for the district, and $8.3 million in scholarships over less than 100 students. Those numbers are outstanding. Those numbers would be something that any community in America would be proud of. Another thing that we've been hearing is that school choice means stealing money. That is just flat out wrong. That's, that myth is, I'm going to address it, but Watauga County residents now have school choice. This empowers families to choose where they want to spend their educational tax dollars that they are entitled to. If a family enrolls at Ivy, it's by choice, not by force. It is their choice, not ours. Likewise, anyone can choose not to send their child to Ivy Classical, but they do not have the right to make that decision for anybody else. So let's take down the negative comments. It's okay to be against the school, but don't criticize or bully those who support it. After all, choice is what has made America great. So does school choice have a negative financial impact on the existing school districts? And you can't see this, but there's been 28 fiscal, oh, you can see it. Thank you for telling me. There's been 28 fiscal studies done on the impact of school choice. Not a single one found that there was a negative financial impact on any existing school district. Positive impact. Many studies, DC, Florida, Milwaukee, there's countless studies, they show abundant evidence that school choice encourages existing school districts to improve. School choice brings about competition, and competition drives excellence. I think the superintendent just mentioned how this house system worked. He said friendly competition breeds excellence, improves everything. I agree, totally. And there have been 33 studies on the educational effects of school choice, 31 of which showed positive effect, 1 of which showed a neutral effect, and only 1 showed a negative effect. So why should Prattville embrace school choice? Over 800 students from 500 families have pre-enrolled in Ivy Classical Academy. This is not a small movement. It's a cry for change. It's a cry for school choice. And Ivy Classical is the only option that provides these families, your constituents, with school choice. I'm going to move on to facilities. Has the school selected a final facility? No. Has the city agreed to fund Ivy Classical's facility? No. Has Ivy Classical made a formal request to the city asking for funding? No. The school is narrowing down the final options pending some key developments. And absolutely, High Point is at the top of our list. It's a great location for a school. It's a great location for a campus. It's got great access, great parking, great landscaping, and it has a few vacant buildings. The only minor setback is that the center sits in Elmore County. And we are working with our district senator and speaking to many House members regarding legislation that will permit Ivy Classical to take advantage of this real estate opportunity if it passes. This is not unique to Ivy Classical. 3 other charter schools in the last 12 months would have been able to take advantage of better opportunities for their students if they had been afforded that same 1 mile. If this bill passes, it's important to note that housing Ivy Classical at High Point will have no additional impact to any of the surrounding school districts. We will still offer priority enrollment to all the Watauga County students, and Elmore students won't have any preferred access or enrollment. Believe us, we would all have less gray hair if High Point was in Watauga County. So another reason that we are big on High Point, and another reason it's at the top of the list, is the immense cost savings. We've had many discussions with developers and architects, and the benchmark study that's released every year recently reported that the average school construction cost is over $300 per square foot. Using industry figures and putting that plainly, if High Point works out, Ivy will be providing Watauga County students with an $80+ million school campus for $22.8 million. Many Facebook comments have been made about Thompson High School, Auburn High School, Trussville High School, that Prattville simply cannot afford to build a school of that magnitude. I would agree. At $300 a square foot, even at $200 a square foot, I would agree that's out of the realm. Superintendent Tidmore said that we have to keep up with the Joneses. This is an opportunity where we can do that. I would say that it's already half built. We just need to finish the job, and we can put the ghost of High Point to bed. So how would Ivy Classical at High Point drive economic development? That's something that I've brought up many times. Vacant retail is the millstone around any community's neck, and it has certainly been a source of contention with our residents. But the fact that Prattville has so much vacant retail is and has been working against our economic development efforts for many years. National companies and brands no longer get on planes or get in cars to scout markets. It's all done online by using various algorithms, with retail vacancy being a key factor. In many regards, Prattville is a great fit for potential developers. But because our retail vacancy index is out of balance, we don't even get to be a proverbial hat on the table. If Ivy Classical Academy can locate at High Point, it will carry with it significant positive economic impacts, not only occupying the vacant space, but attracting new businesses, providing new jobs, increasing retail sales, and increasing retail taxes. If we are unable to get legislation passed, we will have to look at other facilities. We have several other options, all of which are within the city limits, all of which are within Autauga County. While they can all be ready for a move-in date of July or August of 2022, none are as cost-effective as High Point, but given the board's expertise in construction, development, design, and facility acquisition, there will still be a very meaningful cost saving versus traditional public school building costs, which are we anticipate we can do it for $180 to $200 per square foot. So why should Prattville embrace Ivy Classical at High Point? The 2040 comp plan ranked public schools as the top issue, with business development third on the list. Other comments from vision casting sessions centered on education as well as the vacant retail at High Point. Ivy Classical Academy occupying High Point presents a unique opportunity for the city of Prattville to satisfy a multitude of constituent concerns, and does so at 30 cents on the dollar, making it an efficient use of educational tax dollars.